And I just want you to have a listen to this story. It's extraordinary as he describes an occasion where he defused a bomb under fire in Iraq.
Well, I turned up at the scene, and before I even arrived there, I knew that my bomb disposal robot wasn't working. So I already knew that there were 2 people dead at the scene. There was a huge crowd. That one of those dead people was my friend, and there was also a secondary device, so another bomb waiting for me. So when I turned up, the first thing I did was walk past the body of a friend. And I'd never seen a body before. I'd certainly never seen a dead friend before. And that image was the most destructive thing about the whole day. So that suddenly set this task miles apart from any other. Very shortly afterwards, a sniper began to take pot shots. I found that my electronic countermeasures, which is a piece of kit responsible for stopping radio control bombs going off, didn't work. And within...
Why wasn't it working?
There was an equipment fault, which meant that due to nobody's fault in my team, it just would not work on that day. And the same was true with the bomb disposal robot. And a few minutes after I found out about the electronic countermeasures, actually, I knew that I had to go and take what they call the longest walk towards this bomb, the secondary device, and take it apart by hand.
So you're walking towards this device, and you know that a lot of that equipment that is supposed to protect you, it's not working. This is like something out of a movie.
Yeah, it is.
And that longest walk, as you describe it, how long was it in your head?
In my head, it was an incredibly long distance.
Can you talk me through it?
Well, I think the most important thing is that just a minute or so before I left, because of this combination of sniper, crowd, no robot, no electronic countermeasures, I was utterly convinced that my chance of survival was tiny, maybe 3, 4 or 5%. But to make it worse, from where I was, even before I set out, I could see just 20 or 30 metres to my half right, a friend of mine who died. So before I left, the very last thing I did was to tell my second in command that there was really no chance of getting through this, that I had to do it, it was the right thing to do, but when I died, he should pass on a message to my parents, tell them I love them.
I want to stop you there, because now I don't understand, because I would have thought your game, your skill, I don't say game facetiously, your skill is about percentages and percentage chances. Why do you continue with a situation where you've got a 5% chance of survival? You walk away, surely, from that situation.
Well, I would have loved to, but I explored every other option. And on that day, there were only 2 ways to that scene. The way forward, which had a bomb in the way, or a way back, which had a couple of hundred Iraqis in the way. And because of the nature of the crowd, I felt that if we tried to go back, there'd be a lot more blood spilt that day. We'd have to fight our way out of there. So there's only one way back to camp, and that was forward, and there was a bomb in the way. And a number of people have said, well, you could have blown it up, you could have fired something at it to deliberately initiate it. And I could have done that. But if I'd done that, I would have really increased the risk of death to other people. So whether that be British troops or Iraqis. And you don't get into bomb disposal to avoid a challenge where that avoidance leads to someone else's death. And if I had left it, some other person would have had to go forward and deal with that. And that some other person would have been, in all likelihood, an Iraqi policeman. And even though my chance of successfully defeating this was tiny, I was in a much, much better place to do it than they were.
But you must, in that type of situation, no matter how much training you have, you're a human being, so you must be thinking of your loved ones and the fact that you might never see them again.
And that's exactly what I did do. And so before I took the first step out of my incident control point, I passed on a message to my parents and to my ex-girlfriend who...
How?
Well, I left the message with my second in command, who wouldn't have been walking with me. So if I died, he would know that those were my words to be passed on.
You wrote it down?
No, I just told him. I said, tell these people that I love them.
And you were convinced?
Yeah, we worked it out on the ground that there was, 3 or 4 or 5% chance of success.
How come you're still here now then? What did you do to that bomb?
I don't know. It's something I've thought about probably a dozen times a day since. I can only assume that something went wrong in that system. So maybe a battery in the bomb didn't work, or maybe the bomb maker who could have initiated it remotely wasn't there.
Remember,
I don't know.
Remember that myself and everyone else listening to this, we've never seen a bomb before. We don't know what's inside these things. Talk me through what you actually did with that device. You walked up to it. What did it look like? What was inside it?
Well, I walked up to it knowing that in all likelihood it was the same as the first bomb. And the first bomb was what's called an explosively formed projectile. And that's just a cylinder of explosive at one end of which is a dish. Could be the size of a dinner plate or even a side plate. And I knew that that was likely to be in the second bomb because I'd seen evidence of the first bomb having those. And I also knew that it was very likely that it would have a passive infrared detector. And this is a thing that people have at the back of their gardens, detects movement and heat and turns on a security light. So I knew that that bomb was looking for my heat and my movement. But what I didn't know is in which way it was looking. So when I arrived next to it, I saw an object twice the size of a shoebox, yellow, covered in insulation foam, the very same foam you get between the walls of your house, and also covered in hessian. And what that does, it makes it look like a rock. And in order to disable that bomb, I looked for a number of ways. So trying to cut a wire, which is a bit of a cliche, but absolutely true, or a number of other ways.
And it is true. Literally one wire would stop the bomb, or cutting particular wires. Is it like the movies?
In absolute extremis, absolutely, because all you're dealing with generally in these bombs is a very simple circuit, very simple. So it's not always true, but if you can interrupt that circuit, but you first of all have to know exactly what it's doing, you can disable the bomb.
So when you looked at this and you looked at the wires, what did you see?
Well, I couldn't see any wires, and that was really important. So what I had to do was just leave an explosive weapon, and this weapon is designed to, by force, separate the bomb, but not destroy it, so I could collect forensic evidence, etc. So I think I left that probably 10, 20 centimetres away from the bomb. But I couldn't see any wires, and I couldn't see any other way of attacking that device.
And if that infrared detector, and you've described it so well in terms of the analogy you gave to your garden, because when I walk into my garden, one of the detectors detects the movement and it switches on the light. And what's in my head now is, as effortlessly as that light comes on, that's how easy it would have been for that bomb to blow you to bits.
That's absolutely true, and it wasn't just me. A lot of the bombs in Iraq at that time were these passive infrared initiated bombs, but it is the passive infrared devices that you can get at B&Q. It's as simple as that, and it's really simple circuitry, and it would have been as quick as that. When I was 10, 15 metres away, there would have been enough heat for it to initiate, and that would have been the end of that.
How do you get past those then? How do you disarm those?
Well, I wouldn't talk about how to disarm them on a radio show, but the trick is to not let it see you. And you can not let it see you if you know which way it's looking. But on that day, I didn't know which way it was looking. If, for instance, I'd known it was looking south, I would have not approached it in the south.
You know, that